This is the 23rd episode, and we don't have a theme song, so I'm singing this silly tune. Oh yeah! Summer of 2024. It's the Minsk and Friends Speakeasy coming at you once more. This is Minsk.
And I'm Friends.
Huzzah! Welcome back, Jonathan.
Yay.
It's, the channel has changed its name, but this podcast hasn't, because I really like the cadence of Minsk and Friends Speakeasy. So anyone who was worried about that, no worries, we're still sticking with that.
Wait, your channel has changed its name?
Yes, it was part of the shameless self-plug, the 10th anniversary celebration. I thought that was a good opportune moment to update the channel a little bit. So there's a bigger spiel on why I switched it to Your Pal Minsk on that episode, so I won't repeat myself. But yeah, because I've been using that name a lot, and I think it fits better that I have the YouTube channel be called Your Pal Minsk as well. So that's how you find the channel now, but that doesn't mean that this podcast can't still go by its classic name. But, yeah, let's get to it. We wanted to have, a bit of a loose episode, because, I don't know, it just felt like we were going to have one, but, you didn't want to go this entire year again without having a couple of episodes, so this is your checkpoint of the year as we go through a little bit of what we've been playing and what's been going on. And what are we looking at the moment? We got one game that both of us have been playing lately that we'll get to in a bit. We have a little bit more to say about that, but this is going to be a bit more a looser structure episode than a lot of ones we've done in the past. But to really get it started, how has 2024 been so far here at the halfway point for you?
It's been a busy year. Because I've been working like a dog with also my own stuff, and I got to go to Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival, for the first time in my life.
That's right. That was that is a shockingly big deal. It's a pretty high profile event, so it's like pretty amazing that you got to drop by there.
It was a lot of fun. I hope I get to go next year. At least they were very, very, very polite and were like, "Oh yes, you must come back next year. We will be happy to see you." And everybody talked like that. It was really weird.
Yeah, and the garlic smell, it wafted all the way back to Finland when you flew back.
Yeah, just all the outrageous stereotypes.
Yeah.
But no, it was really great. And it was once you got over, like, past the overwhelming part of, oh my god, I'm in Cannes. Oh my god, there's 30,000 people here every single day. And, oh my god, you're trying to, like, navigate to your seat while you have to dodge Cate Blanchett and all the other people who are there.
Always getting in the way.
Yeah, always getting in the way. Once you got, like, over that, it became not routine, but it became so comfortable that I really would not have wanted to leave. I was there for a little over a week. It's a 2.5 week festival. So next year I hope I'll get to be the whole time.
Full Monty.
Yeah, because for me, like, the whole thing of waking up early in the morning, going down, the French Riviera, grabbing yourself a, orange juice, and going at 8 a.m. to the first movie screening, and then, like, watching movies all the way until, like, 1 or 2 in the morning. Mm-hmm. That's like the personal idea of heaven. So I would just be happy to do that all the time.
Yeah, if folks at home haven't picked up, like, Jonathan's, like, real passion or main passion is like movies. Like, you're a really smart guy and you're very knowledgeable and interested in all sorts of media. But I think you would also agree that movies are, like, your real, like, a wheelhouse in the world. So, I imagine Cannes is, like, a real big step for you.
Yeah, I feel like that. And then, like, I love games in their own way, like, equally, because it's a different kind of art form, but yeah. And I've worked with games for a long time. Like, I was just thinking that it's been, I think next year will be my 10th anniversary of when I started working in games, when I, like, wrote for my first mobile games.
Oh, sweet. I didn't even realize that.
So it's been a while with that, but, like, A lot of the movies, it's like Cannes is the big thing, and I think the next big step is like I would love to go to the Sundance Film Festival. It's like
that'd be super cool.
Yeah, and like with games, I think like Gamescom has been a really big thing now that E3 doesn't exist anymore. But then like I think if next year there's been a little bit of talk that next year I might be able to go to the Summer Game Fest and do a thing live from there. I think
cool.
Yeah, I think that would be like the Cannes equivalent of the game experience. And of course, the Tokyo Game Show would be a dream because Tokyo.
Yeah, I imagine that would be the big one for me, if
Yeah, I've been talking to Square a lot about it, and like every time I see any friends from there, I'm just like mentioning like, hey, I'm very willing to come, and I will take all my rudimentary, Japanese skills that I have, and I'll make a fool of myself while there. But
sweet.
So far, no luck. How about you? What's your year been like?
So yeah, one of the reasons we haven't really done an episode this year until now is that I haven't been able to invest in video games. A bit of a problem for a video game review show, I admit. So like, we had a stream of Tekken 8 early in the year, and that was kind of a pseudo episode of our podcast because we just kind of shot the shit about the topic while playing Tekken. But like, I hadn't been able to buy new games after Tekken 8 for like a few months at least. So it was on that front. It's been a bit of a dry spell for me. That doesn't mean that this has been a bad year for me at all. In terms of the YouTube channel, some of my favorite games have been lately, or just like I've had an absolute delight with all three of the games lately on the channel. Like they've been hitting really hard, so I've had a really good time doing that. And if I can brag about outside video game stuff, I got to see Judas Priest live.
Nice.
That was awesome because I actually thought about it. Like it's like they're on their 50th. Well, the band is like 50 years old. Like the band is 50 years old already. So I remember thinking like it's one of those big landmarks of metal music that I've never seen. So like I was like, well, I gotta, because their new album is also killer. Like it is shockingly good that a band this old can put out such a good album in Invincible Shield, their release this year. And Rob Halford in like 72 years old, you could not tell from his voice. He is still just a fantastic singer. So yeah, I had to like check that off my list of achievements, and I'm really glad they put on an amazing show. Those fogies. Some of them are younger gen because it's they've been switching band members over the years, but Rob Halford was still there, and he was very impressive in his performance.
Where did you see them? Did they come here to Finland?
Yeah, that's right. It was in Tampere, which is about an hour and a half up from the capital region, so not a terrible trip. They had the entire arena there all for them, so they pulled a 2-hour show, which also, I don't want to be too ageist here, but like the reality is that Rob Halford is in his 70s, and it is entirely possible that the band is going to have to call it quits sooner rather than later. Like you don't know when he's going to have to retire, but he pulled through the whole 2-hour set like no problem. Like there was nothing wrong with his performance or anybody else's.
Oh, I don't think it's ageist too. Like that's just realizing the facts, because like I don't think either one of us in our 30s could pull off a 2-hour rock show.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an insane amount of stamina that you need, and endurance just to keep moving on the stage, engage the audience, and sting, and like all that. I have immense respect for them pulling off any kind of a show in their age.
Yeah, I will admit that Mr. Halford wasn't running back and forth the stage to like really pump up the crowd like someone like Bruce Dickinson in Iron Maiden, who even in his 60s will still do that, like just going back and forth. He had a much more like pronounced gait, like, but he still commanded the audience very commendably. But and he kept it up. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So I'm very impressed by that band's efforts, and I'm super glad I still had the opportunity.
Yeah,
to see
absolutely.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm going to see Springsteen in just under a couple of weeks. It's on
That's
the 12th.
right. Yeah.
It's on the 12th of July, and it's been 10 years since he was in Finland last. And he's 74 now. I think he's turning 75 in September. So, like, it's just one of those things, like, I'm always shocked that he can, because his last gig 10 years ago when he was in his 60s was 3.5 hours long. I don't think
my God.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting a 3.5 hour gig this time, but he always seems to have a burst of energy when he comes to Finland, because he like performs these marathon gigs every time he's here, and he's got the whole band with him, and they're all in their 70s. So I really feel for Max Weinberg, who's like 70 something, and he's their drummer, and he just has 3 hours of just drumming.
Yeah, perhaps the most physical role in your traditional band. Yeah. Brutal.
But I'm excited because it's every time is always a gift to see them while they're still touring and live, but like every time I do wonder, is this the last time, or is this the last time now?
Yeah, I get that with a few bands. My big regret is that I never got to see Motorhead, which of course that was a very unexpected death for Lemmy there, who I think was also pushing 70 at the time. That kind of really put it into perspective, because like Motorhead, another just giant of the genre, and it stung a little to be like, oh no, dear, that's a problem. All those classic songs, I'm not going to hear those now. There's no chance. Wow. But But big salute to these old fogies who can still crank it out like that. I'm humbled. Okay, well, let's get into some of the video game topics today. Before we talk about what we've been playing, I mentioned today that before recording that I wanted to relitigate a subject we talked about a couple of episodes ago. Never say it that we don't like, we don't actively update our stances here. I wanted to go back to the topic of the term JRPG, which at the time was being considered, disparaging towards Japanese video game development. You probably remember this topic?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and we generally agreed that, it's like there was a weird attitude of like putting down video games being produced in Japan. Like that's what the developer was. It was a guy from Square, I think.
I think so, yeah. Square Enix or something was talking about it.
And like how he didn't really appreciate that, like he was being like ranked different, on terms of, his nationality, basically. So I've heard a couple of, of course I've heard like the chud side of like whatever, man, but I'm not interested in those arguments. But I've heard a couple of a little bit more compelling arguments that it might have been jumping the gun to like, call the term out as bad right away. For one, there have been a couple of counterexamples of Japanese developers who have also said that it's kind of like honoring to them that their production has gotten this own term. So it's about there's an example of a developer who's not a fan and a Japanese developer who is a fan. Unfortunately, I can't remember. This is bad journalism. I can't remember which developer was it who like spoke up in favor of the term either at the moment, but fair. The other that I thought was interesting was that the term was compared to when you talk about certain like cuisines, like when you talk about like food from a certain country, like a Mexican restaurant or a Turkish restaurant, or Japanese restaurant. In those contexts, you don't really use the name of the country as a disparaging remark. It's supposed to highlight like the origin of the food you are eating. So that made me kind of take a little bit of a double take on like if is this comparable to like talking about video games similarly. I'm not entirely sure. Do you have any thoughts right off the bat here?
I can see the argument.
Yeah.
And like I think I mentioned this when we were talking about it the first time, is that like, because I never in the beginning considered it as a bad thing, because it was just a descriptor in the same like a JRPG or an RPG. It was just to say that this is because it's an RPG made in Japan, in the same way how I would say something is an European RPG versus an American RPG. It was like a descriptor to begin with. And it was only when somebody pointed out that others were using it as a derogatory kind of othering term that I started thinking of it, that, well, am I accidentally, or am I, without knowing it, engaging in that too? I'm still undecided fully on it, and I try and just kind of, I still think I prefer RPG as a blanket term, and then like if somebody asks like, oh, is it like, where is it made or what kind it is? And then you can like start saying like, well, it's got these and these and these, and you would probably call it a JRPG classically. But yeah, honestly, beyond that, I don't really, I haven't given it, I actually had not given it any thought ever since we had our podcast until just now.
Yeah, it was a subject that honestly did kind of die down, but before it did, like I did see like a few more interesting comments discussing the matter. So yeah, I don't know. The counter example I would bring up is like the now stopped habit of naming diseases after like regions that they occurred in. Like it's now agreed that it was really bad form to, for example, call the Spanish flu the Spanish flu, because that just that now like connotates Spain with disease. And most recently the CDC knew not to call COVID anything to do with China or a region in China, and in fact there was a bunch of assholes who insisted on calling it the Wuhan flu.
Yeah, it got very heavily politicized.
And rather unfairly towards like it's not Wuhan's fault, like in that sense. Like it's kind of mean, So similarly, since there was this weird phase where a lot of people in the West were like, Japan's time making games is over. Like that still like kind of haunts me a little bit when the topic is talked about. So I don't know. Ultimately, what I think is that this situation of RPG versus JRPG is a little bit like the situation of whether you should say Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas. Like, it's probably better form to, say Happy Holidays, but it's, likely if someone says Merry Christmas, they're probably not coming from it from like a bad place of trying to put down other holidays. So I wouldn't like get, angry by people who still say JRPG unless, well, I would have to pay attention to more context of like what else does this person say. But but I imagine like it's like a considerate thing, maybe not to highlight the Japaniness, but probably people who are saying it, the vast majority, aren't intending to put down Japanese game development.
Yeah, no, and I was, because this is something I was thinking, because I reviewed earlier this year, like my year started with playing both Yakuza, the newest one, and then and like a month or two later, a new Persona game.
Yeah.
And like those are both games that I would very much describe as JRPGs. Those are because they're so ingrained in Japanese culture.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I don't think that that's a bad thing to point that out. And I mean, I think that they're both fantastic games.
Yeah.
Like, I think Yakuza might be one of my favorite games this year. But it's just one of those things where you're like, if somebody really came to me and took offense of me like calling it a JRPG, and they were a person who actually, it mattered to them. It wasn't like some other Westerner who just decides they want to get angry about it on behalf of another person. But if a Japanese developer or a gamer came and said that why are you doing this, I would probably then have to revisit it.
Yeah.
But absolutely, I don't think that in that case where it's clearly a part of it. Like in the same way how, but it's weird because then like Elden Ring, I would not specifically say that it's a Japanese action game or role-playing game because it's so ingrained. Like it takes so much out of European history and European culture. That's a lot more muddied water there, and like the whole way that it's built borrows from so many different game development styles.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an open question and a really difficult one in the same way how trying to catalog a certain film would be.
Yeah, but like you said, I'm still making an effort to just talk about RPGs. I don't really see the point still of like honestly after all this talk, but like I just felt like there's still something to like ruminate about the matter. But I'm gonna try and talk about RPG still. Maybe I'll say it's an RPG made in Japan to if that's what we're interested in highlighting. That seems more appropriate for the situation, I guess.
I think it's fine. I mean, we're going to be talking about games from that part of the world a lot in the future anyway, because both of us really are fans of them and we are fans of the culture. It's such a huge part of both of our lives that I don't think we would avoid it. So it's always good to take a step back and take stock.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think we've taken sufficient again for the moment. We'll see once again what new developments. Maybe. I don't know. I think the conversation is elsewhere died down, so.
Yeah.
But let's get to some gaming then, and some of the stuff that we've been playing now lately. Do you want to start with Nine Souls, or do you want to lead up with something else first?
Let's start with that. Both of us have played it, so let's go right into it.
Yeah, so this is the one that I've been playing lately, and I find it fascinating. I honestly only got it, because someone said that it was Hollow Knight plus Sekiro, and I have been really wanting to play Sekiro. I haven't gotten around to it, but I love Hollow Knight, and I jumped into it. I don't entirely see the Hollow Knight comparisons outside of it being a Metroidvania with, a hand-drawn art style, but I don't think it's similar to Hollow Knight ultimately. But this is a fantastic game, I think. This is a really engaging Metroidvania that's very impressive by the Taiwanese studio Red Candle Games, who did horror games earlier, so a surprising genre shift, but I think they've killed it with this. This is a really good installment in the Metroidvania genre.
I would agree, maybe not as enthusiastically, but I would agree.
Yeah, certainly. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think it's. I remember when you told me about this game. I'm actually in the process of reviewing it now.
Okay.
And I remember looking at it and going like, I love the art style, and that was the big draw for me. And I especially love that a lot of the story is told through like manga style sequences where it's like where just the screen splits into different frames as if read through a manga comic.
Yeah,
and it's really beautifully told. The plot, this weird mix of sci-fi and fantasy and history is.
And Taoist philosophy is the specific one. Like it's taking a really like ancient Chinese kind of vibe that's bleeding through everywhere.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Chinese political stuff in there that like seeps through a little bit.
Yeah,
which is really fascinating to look because I'm not that familiar with that part of the thing. But like I spoke with somebody who knows more about it. They're writing an essay on the game, and like they were like. Very heavily felt that this was a very political game, if you are familiar with that.
Fascinating. Yeah, I can't. I only know the basic notes as well, so I can't appreciate that side of what's going on here.
Yeah. I like the character designs, and I do like mostly the world.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of issue with the fact that like, and this is the eternal question of when is difficulty too much, and when does
we're back to this question. Yeah.
I think that this has a lot of really great mechanics, and I really like the Sekiro style slashing and defecting and stuff. I don't think it's as well implemented as the game probably wants to think. And there's been some moments where I've just been more frustrated with it than enjoying, like, or thinking that I'm getting better and learning. Like when there's like multiple enemies attacking at once. For me, it gets a little too hectic and hard to see the visual cues when like you have 4 enemies and they're all hitting at once. The animations pile on top of each other to the point that you can't tell what is connecting and what isn't.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
And that's really just an accessibility issue for me. And I realized that for me, like, I do have some like cases where I get overwhelmed by the visual information.
Yeah.
And that causes it. But I'm really appreciative of the fact that the game has a difficulty adjustment. And that actually has made it a lot more enjoyable for me, that I've been able to put on the difficulty adjustment and just like give a little bit of breathing room for myself just to continue with the story.
Yeah, that sounds entirely reasonable. Because it is, I think it's not just this game, but I believe it's always when there's like multiple enemies in Souls games, it always gets a little more trickier to manage. It just kind of comes with the genre, I feel like. So I don't entirely know what the cure is. Someone would argue that this game gives you tools in terms of the bow weapon, which is specifically called out as a kind of a crowd control item. So, but again, like, using that effectively is a challenge in itself. So is the game like providing enough opportunity to learn to use those tools? It's a fair thing to call out, I think.
Oh yeah, and there's a really robust skill tree. I'm about 7 hours in, and I think this is like a 13-14 hour game from what I've heard.
Something like that, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm
a little bit behind you. I'm close by, but similar amount of time.
Yeah, I think I'm about halfway through from what I've been able to tell. And like, I think I've got it down, like how things work. And I do, like one of the things that I really, really admire when there's good level design. Like when the levels become like interesting to explore. And that's, I think, why Metroidvanias are some of my favorites in general, because I get so much autistic pleasure in realizing how they connect, how the levels connect with each other, and realizing where the new door you've opened actually leads back into, and how it loops around. And this one does that so well.
Yeah. It's very unclear in some way if like where you're supposed to go, because there's once you get a couple of tools for exploration, there actually is like a ton of directions and everything loops into each other. And it is satisfying in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah. My only kind of niggle would be that there's in the early stages, there's a lot of backtracking and a lot of kind of running around what I feel is a little bit pointless. Like, I wish that they would introduce more of the fast travel earlier. Yeah. But I realized that it's there to get you to understand, how movement works, and to understand where the main big points of the map are.
Yeah, because another thing about Metroidvanias is always that, like, you're supposed to, like, find a place that you can't access yet, but then when you get a new tool, you're going to remember, oh yeah, there was that place, and this is going to work on that. And in order to, remind the player that, like, these places exist, I think a little bit of backtracking is required so that you, like, kind of rub past the same places, and you're like, yeah, there's that point that I can't access yet. It's to keep it in your mind better, so that once you get the tool, you know where to double back to specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah, that does mean it is, of course, a genre infamous for backtracking. But I get huge pleasure out of the boss fights in this game, because this does the exact thing. Because I think for me, I really do like learning patterns of enemies and bosses. And this like parry-based mechanic really encourages that. So I get the feeling that I really like of where the first encounter, or the first couple of encounters with like some tough enemy or boss fight, I really get a feeling of like, I can't do this. This guy's impossible. And then if I just persevere a little bit, like suddenly I start like seeing the code in the matrix, like I see what I have to do, and then like the run happens where I pull it off, and then it's like, yes, I got that impossible guy. So that's what I think is super appealing in this kind of gameplay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember the very first big boss that comes in, and like it's the guy on the horseback who shows up, and I remember like the first couple of tries he just wiped the floor with me.
Yeah, he kills you in like 2 or 3 shots. The big centaur guy.
Yeah. And I remember just being like, oh no, just fuck it. I think this is where I hit the wall with it. And then like I went to sleep and came back the next day, and just once I started getting the pattern down, it felt really good to be able to then wipe the floor with him for a change.
Yeah, like once I finally flipped it, and then there's the optional fights of the guys you summon by hitting bells. And the first guy I got like that, I also was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here yet. This guy is super optional, and I'm not supposed to fight. I'm supposed to like level up way more. But then I kept at it for like an hour or something, and I was like, you know what? I actually know what this guy is doing, and I can counter his tricks. And I don't know. I really appreciate a game that can get that kind of feeling through. So yeah.
Yeah, and from what I've understood, this is a really small team that made the game, so I have a lot of respect for just how well everything runs and how well thought out everything is. Because in small games like this, it would be really easy to see like that, oh, they found one mechanic that they really like and everything else kind of feels superfluous. But so far, like everything has felt like in the same way how Dead Cells felt, in that like everything is well thought out. Everything feels like it's got a place, and everything feels like that they've really taken the time to go and like work it so that it's like within an inch of its life, that anything in any direction would make it feel less than perfect.
Yeah, I don't, because I have never been involved in game development, I don't understand how anyone is a genius enough to come up with these like ecosystems that like work so well, like all the pieces in a Metroidvania world where like all the pieces come together so well, and it like is gameplay wise so cohesive. It's always a bit of a miracle in my mind, honestly.
Yeah, well, I mean, any game that gets made is a bit of a miracle, so you're not wrong there.
Fair enough, but in these super intricate, everything like kind of works in tandem in the world, so that like everything unlocks like in a reasonable like order, and progress, even though it's open, like progress makes sense. Like that seems like an extra step to like make all of that work. I don't know.
Yeah.
I did want to really quickly, before we move on from Nine Souls, a more general question. I've seen a sentiment online that Souls games ruined Metroidvanias, or like diminished them, because I think around Hollow Knight they started to introduce the kind of mechanics that are unique to Dark Souls and later ones. So the kind of dropping your souls or your cash or whatever mechanic is the big one. And also a more like slowed down kind of methodical gameplay rather than just being entirely platforming based. And I've seen people express that those are actually a bit of a detriment to the Metroidvania genre. In particular, it like discourages exploration in some way, the constant risk of losing your cash or souls or whatever the currency is. And this is the first time I do kind of feel it, though. I think it might be because the prices on items all seem a little inflated in terms of how much money I'm making. Maybe I unlock like really good ways of making money in this game, but it seems like it takes me really long before I can afford anything in this game. And all the time there's that haunting specter of, if you die and drop these, coins, and you can't retrieve them without dying again, like that's a ton of progress lost. I don't know if you had any sort of similar sentiments playing this one, or, otherwise.
I generally do agree with that. Like, I don't know if ruined is the right word.
I'm being a bit strong with my language, but, well, so were some of these people.
Yeah,
talking
and
about it.
It's the internet, so hyperbole is the way that people communicate. I do agree that I'm a little getting burnt out with the fact that everything has to be a Souls-like.
Yeah.
But that's really just because that's the flavor of the time. People really want to. Everybody wants to make a Souls-like game. Yeah. And I think that most of these games don't seem to understand why the Dark Souls or the Souls-like games are such a big hit. And they just kind of feel like that we have to make it difficult and we have to make it punishing, and that is in itself a game mechanic. I don't particularly enjoy that, and I think that one of the best things about Metroidvanias is that it allows you, because it's the whole point is that it should encourage and reward you for exploring and for trying out things. And I find that in a Metroidvania, I don't want to explore and try out new things because I'm too worried that I'm going to lose out on the progress.
That seems to be, and in terms of progress of building up the cash to buy new stuff, that's the new risk that Souls mechanics have brought into the genre. That is the sentiment that I see. Yeah,
and I do wish that. Next year we're getting a new Metroid game, and I'm hoping that it's going to be enough of a success that people will start looking back on it and going like, oh, we can do Metroidvania games without this Souls-like punishment on top of it. I mean, they're going to have their place, and I have liked many Souls-like Metroidvanias. I really, really love Dead Cells, and I even enjoyed a couple of others that are punishing games on their own. But I don't know. I really do wish that there would be a little less of this chasing the kind of current, trend. I think I had the biggest issue with Blasphemous, both of the Blasphemous games, which are really strongly like Metroidvanias, but they're also very much Dark Soulsy. And every time that game allowed me to just soak in and explore the world and just really get into this Catholic nightmare that it was, I was so happy. I loved it. And every time it just started punishing you for no reason, because it was just trying to be difficult and trying to be like a Souls game, I found myself going, if I wanted a Souls game, I would play a Souls game.
Fair enough. So, I don't know exactly, because I do really like Nine Souls' mechanics, as mentioned, and I don't know how important all those upgrades are, but they're there, and I'm really worried about this time. I'm really worried about being able to get them. So my recommendation would have simply been to cut the costs of all the items by half in this game, or maybe take a quarter off the price or something, because you'd still have the Souls mechanic of dropping your stuff. But I feel like I could make a little bit more headway with the items than I am currently. Of course, again, I'll say it again. I'm not super deep in the game, so maybe some kind of some options will open up for better control of your currency in the game, maybe.
And I'm sure that there's somebody listening who's going to go but that's the point, and you're just going to get good and all that. And it's just I play games, even though I review them, I play games mostly to have fun. And my definition of fun is, that's my definition. And that's, I'm you don't have to agree with it, but I'm not going to tell anybody that they're enjoying the game wrong, and I really don't have any any kind of patience for somebody coming in and telling me that I'm enjoying it wrong.
But of course the flip side is that the super high stakes are fun for somebody as well,
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the other one is like, the kind of permadeath games where your save file is erased if you die. And some of those games are also incredibly punishing on top. And, I've seen people be like, no, but that's risk hanging over you all the time is what makes it engaging. Of you could lose it all in an instant, even though for me that like gives heart palpitations basically. But what are you going to do? Although I do have to admit, it is really funny that apparently now with that Elden Ring DLC that came out, some kind of threshold has been crossed in difficulty, because I've seen a lot of people now being like, this is too hard, what the hell? Like, who would normally absolutely be like, yes, FromSoft's vision, yes, this is amazing. So, I don't know what happened there, because I found Elden Ring regular too hard. I'm not going to go into that DLC.
Do you know what my favorite part about that is?
What?
These same people, these same chuds who constantly shit on game journalists and like call us saying that like, you don't know how to play, you need to get good, and game journalists need an easier mode than easy mode to play them. I'm writing my review of the Elden Ring expansion pack right now.
Yeah.
We had to play that before the new patch came in, which made the game easier. And we had to play that without any guides, without any meta builds. And the same thing with Elden Ring, had to play it without anything when it was still pre-patched and it was still more difficult. And I've completed both Elden Ring and the expansion pack. And like, I know so many others who have, done the same thing. So it amuses me now greatly that now the same people are crying on Steam and yelling about how, the game is too difficult and how dare you make it like this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to roll in Schadenfreude too much. That's not a, healthy
No, I had to take one moment of enjoying that because it's such a baffling scenario to be in. But here's the thing. I do agree with it that the expansion pack is too difficult.
Okay.
It has all the same difficulty issues as Elden Ring had, in the sense that it's got a lot of platforming, and that series has never been good with platforming.
Even though there's now a dedicated jump button.
Yeah, and it's still terrible. And there's so many places where you'll just end up, falling to your death because the platforming is awful. But then there's also like a lot of the bosses are a very specific type of subset of boss in that they're super fucking fast and they just like constantly pummel you with attacks and you don't have any chance to like take a moment to heal or do anything except dodge and you have to be, a millimeter precise to hit them. So it forces you to play in an exact, very specific meta kind of way.
Yeah.
Which, if you've built a character that isn't like that, then you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
And that happened to me. My first character that I played it with was a samurai kind of type that has a very specific attack pattern. I couldn't even, do one or two bosses in the expansion pack, and I had to go back and take a new character and start the expansion pack all over again because I knew that this character would be able to then pummel them with stagger mechanics. And I could have a chance of fighting them. But it's like, I didn't like the fact that I had to change my entire play style to suit the fact that these boss battles were specifically like that. Because everything else, all the other stuff, the exploration, the world, is still fantastic. And I could play exactly how I had built my character in those parts. It's just when you get to the bosses, they are all cut from the same cloth. And they're all the same kind of... They're not as fun as some of the bosses in the main game.
Well, I mean, the genius in at least past Souls games, well, again, genius may be a strong word, but what's great about bosses in old Souls games is that there's a variety in how they behave and, like, a variety of what kind of, like, character build is good against them. So... sometimes you will bump into a boss that's tough for your character build, but that's not all the time. So, you'll sometimes have a bad speed bump, but other times you'll have a more easier time with a boss. Like I have a friend who also plays Souls games who always marvels that like we have different difficulty spots in the souls in terms of the bosses. Like I'll take out a boss that he has trouble with, and vice versa. And there's nothing really weird going on. It's just that we play the game in different ways, and those bosses either play against or with that play style that we're playing as. So it sounds like what's the problem with Shadow of the Erd Tree is that they're not doing that there. Like sounds like the whole set is geared for just the one specific build now, instead of the variety to vex you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that I haven't played it, so I can't. Only my impression from hearsay.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to give the wrong impression. I really enjoyed the expansion pack. I enjoyed it a little less than I enjoyed the main game. But I've always had the same issue with other expansion packs with the Elden Ring or any of the Dark Souls.
Yeah.
In that I feel that they have not been as good as the main stuff. I mean, Dark Souls 3 is still my favorite by far. It is one of my all-time favorite games, and and even in that, I would say that the expansion packs were not as good as the main game.
Yeah, I mean, I've never played a single one of them because I feel like all of them are like, here's the master class for those of you who were having too good of a time with, too easy of a time with the main game. And I'm like, I'm having a perfectly satisfying challenge with the main game. I do not need this cranked up. It's the same thing with the Doom Eternal DLCs, which, that was my game of the year back then. I really don't need to see what that game is like turned up even harder than what it was in its base state. Like, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, well, let's talk a little bit quickly about some other games then. We've talked about Nine Souls and the Elden Ring DLC. Since you've had more of a chance to play games this year than I have, do you want to highlight something else that's been good? 2024?
I played a game. I just recently reviewed it, and it was something that I was introduced to a term that I had not heard before, and I feel really called out about. This is a boomer shooter.
Oh, yes. This is the throwbacks to 90s first-person shooter games. I suppose it's kind of necessary after how Call of Duty really, really redefined first-person shooters and introduced a lot of mechanics that aren't present in that era of games. So I guess the term was necessary to point out that no, this is running on that kind of old school mentality, I suppose.
I guess so. It's really funny to me because it's a the game itself, yes, visually it looks like a 90s game.
So hold on, which game are we even talking about?
We're talking about we're talking about a game called Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun.
Ah, there we go. All right. Yeah. I saw this hyped up a while ago. Yeah.
And it looks like a 90s game, but it definitely doesn't run like a 90s game. Like this is clearly it runs and plays like Doom, and I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah.
But I'm talking modern Doom. It's really fast paced, and it's got a lot of great visual tricks to it. It seems silly to me that I get why they're doing this, and I get that it's a certain kind of nostalgia love fest. I don't know how I feel about the term boomer shooter. I'm not that old yet.
Well, the whole term boomer originally meant baby boomers, as in people born after World War II. And far be it from me to fight against the evolution of a language. But yeah, now boomer just refers to anybody over 25.
Or circa. An older person who's close-minded or out of touch, and I'm
that's the sort of connotation.
Yeah, I feel like at my I'm in my mid 30s that this is I take that personally. Damn it. But yeah, apart from that, it's a great game. It's so good. I don't really have a lot to say about the 40K lore because I don't really know a lot about it.
We talked a bit about that back when we reviewed Necromunda Hired Gun, so if anyone wants a little bit more thoughts on that subject, you can feel free to go back in our back catalog to that episode.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because like this is supposed to be the grim dark future and everything is, you are essentially meat for the mulcher and kind of stuff like that. But this is really colorful and it's really tongue in cheek and it's really like satiric almost. Like every time you click a button to get like a kind of clue where you're supposed to go next, and it's like the Emperor's troops are never lost, and it shows you like the path, and it's really, really like makes fun of the ultra machoism that this series has.
Well, that's what the original, like, throwing back to the 90s when 40K started, it was satirical. It was like ripping on, like, well, for one, it was ripping on like the right-wing government of late 80s, early 90s England. But also it was like this kind of, it was supposed to have this demented kind of Monty Python vibe to it. Like, it was supposed to be dark in the same way that Quest for the Holy Grail is, ostensibly dark and grimy, but it's also it's a very silly ordeal. So this sounds like it's like true to what the franchise has been in the past.
And like the gameplay itself is a blast. It's a lot of fun. It's good in small doses. Like it's not a long game. I think it's like 10 hours. I think it took me to complete. But I played it in like multiple sittings over a couple of weeks because like you play a couple of levels and it's the same way how Doom was, that it's such a visual overload that you need a moment to kind of go and like rest your eyes for a bit. And I think that if you played it straight through in one sitting, it would probably start feeling in the same way how, like, if you listen to a metal album and you realize that, oh, this is just going on too long. So in small doses, absolutely fantastic. I had a blast with it. I really enjoy. I really think that this would be something I would be more happy to see. This kind of like double A, solid, smaller release where they don't have to chase the highest tier graphics. Like, go and make like the throwback graphics, or go and make like lesser graphics. But the fact that because they've done that, they have so much more that's happening on the screen, and because it's so stylized, it actually feels a lot more fun to look at.
I mean, I think we're finally entering that era after so much of chasing the like high fidelity graphics prize at the end of the rainbow. Like, and games are, I guess they can still get better looking, but like the AAA games are like kind of reaching a plateau. I think people are finally recognizing more than just like the smaller enthusiast group that like a game can be beautiful without having to look photorealistic. Like art style can carry it, even if it's like a simplistic or a retro one. It can like still like look wonderful. Yeah. I don't know.
No, absolutely. And it's all of that is I'm glad that it's happening. I hope that we start seeing more and more of it in the future.
Yeah, well, at least in the indie scene, like, it's gotten to the point where like even indie games look like PlayStation 1, Nintendo 64 like era fidelity. So like if anyone is really into that scene of games, like it's a really, really good time to be into indie games, I feel like. Yeah.
And I mean, we'll probably get to this in just a bit, but there are so many good indie games that are coming out, or good looking games that like I'm actually, this year's Gamescom, I'm super excited about it because like a lot of the events that I've got lined up are indie game heavy. And there are so many really cool looking studios who've got some really interesting things coming out that I think next year everybody's going to be playing. So I'm really, really, really psyched about it.
I'm looking forward to your coverage on that then, coming up in August. Sounds neat. Let's see, what can I talk about in the interim of what I've played? Because as I mentioned, I haven't gotten a lot of chance. Well, I can spoil a game that's going to be on the channel in around August-ish. Is going to be Snufkin, Melody of Moomin Valley.
Oh, that nice.
Yeah. I'm playing a game right now called Northern Journey, which is like heavily inspired by Fennoscandia. And I just felt like I still had that bug in me because it was like, it was making feelings of nostalgia and familiarity adventuring in this fake Nordic land. And Moomins, are, the big cultural export of Finland. I'm going to be carrying that on later on. Just a little sneak peek here. So because I'm playing it right now and I'm going to be talking about it in the series, I don't really want to go too in depth here on the podcast. But like, it's a kid's game for sure. The simplicity of the gameplay and like the repetitiveness in some ways is showing that it's not chasing like, maybe like all ages in terms of having like, engaging gameplay, like demanding high speed gameplay. Mm-hmm. But if you are a fan of the franchise, this is like really encapsulating what the Moomins are about. So like I'm having an incredibly good time just playing it for that factor alone.
Cool. I missed out on this when it came out, but
yeah,
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, like I said, like it's basically an adventure game where you dick around in like this pastoral, world of whimsical fantasy characters. And if you're a Finnish person, you will know who these characters are. But I think is this going to sell new people on the franchise? I think so, because I've seen like personalities like Jesse Cox and Dodger talk about this on their show, big names from abroad in the States. And like, I've seen like a reception, like a positive reception of like, oh, this is a quirky little thing. So, I'm really happy that it is being, the Moomins are being realized like this.
Oh, wait, Jesse Cox and Dodger are still doing stuff?
Yes, they have. They are obviously our chief rivals in reviewing video games. They they started their own video game like weekly talk about games podcast, Geekenders.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they have really good takes. It's kind of it's supposed to feel like the co-optional podcast from back in the day, but it's just the two of them and their weekly guests. It's pretty good.
All right, absolutely. I'll have to go look, because like I really remember liking the co-optional podcast, and I realized the other day that I really have missed hearing their shenanigans, because I know that Dodger was off from stuff for a while because I think that they had kids and like got married and everything.
She's been on maternal leave for a while, yeah, but that's been a while now already too.
Okay, well that's really nice to hear. It's always fun to see them back. I'll have to go and look them up.
Yeah, strong. At least look up. They have a really good theme song by Mega Ran. So at least listen to that one.
Oh, if it's Mega Ran, it's always going to be good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, well, you sold me. I'll have to take a look.
Yeah, but folks at home, listen to our show first. Always.
Yes.
They're still our bitter rivals.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to still mention any games you've played before we talk a little bit about previews?
I will really quickly mention, because I am. These are like something that are like, because there was a lot of like last minute game reviews that came in.
Okay.
So I'm doing the Kingdom Hearts games are now on Steam finally.
Yeah, that's right. They're like all of them basically.
And I got sent all of them. They were
my God.
Yeah, here's every one of them. Just write a review on them. And like I've spent a month now just going through them. And it's
how's it feel to return to that interesting shenanigan?
Well, I feel really old, because I remember when the first Kingdom Hearts came out, and I was, let's see, it was 20 something years ago, so I was 35.
Yeah.
Not 35, I was 15.
No, you're 15, yeah.
Yeah, so I was in high school. I was just going into high school.
Yeah.
And I remember
a couple of years younger for me, so yeah.
Yeah, and I was in junior high at 15. Yeah, anyway, junior high, and I remember getting it for my birthday, because it came out exactly on my birthday, the first one. And I remember my mom was really confused about that, why are you still interested in Goofy and Donald and all that? And I tried to explain that this is like, it's why not? Like, I still think that the cover for the original Kingdom Hearts is one of the most beautiful game covers ever made.
Oh, they're all moonlit?
Yeah, moonlit in Traverse Town.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good one, definitely.
It's so pretty, and like it was really nostalgic to go back to it, and kind of I had this moment of like, where the hell did time go? I was really glad to see that there's a lot of quality of life updates to it, like the camera and all that.
Okay.
Combat, platforming are still kind of janky. They have not aged well, but especially the first one is a really solid classic still. Like it has the right balance of the really crazy plotting, but still really straightforward stuff. And I think it's easily the best one of the bunch. I think they get a little bit worse as they go along. Like Kingdom Hearts 2 is already like, I had to, when I was playing it, because it's called Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue.
Oh, yes, so easily rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, so you can tell from there that it gets way too convoluted, and like the side stories which are coming in there with the because this has everything, these packages. They have like the DS games, they have the PSP games, they have every little kind of addition there. Dream Drop Distance, a full HD remaster of that.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of it has aged well. And like a lot of that stuff I had to like pause every once in a while. And even though I'm playing them in sync or like in succession, how you're supposed to, I can't keep up with the plot. It's too out there.
I dropped the ball back in the day. Like I played the first one, and I've tried to watch like a couple of playthroughs of Kingdom Hearts 2. And I get to about the Lion King world, and I lose the thread. And I understand that it just gets wackier and wackier with its own kind of mythology. Like, I think in the current, like the most recent Kingdom Hearts, the Final Fantasy side is like incredibly small. Like those characters don't really come up anymore. It's just Disney and the original, the original Organization 13 and all those guys running around, basically. Is what I've heard. Again, I'm really lost on the series.
Oh yeah, and like by the time you get to the third game, like the fact that it has to have multiple long exposition scenes at the very beginning, just to keep anybody kind of figuring out what the hell is happening here. It should be a sign that, hey, maybe we should have dialed this back a little bit. Yeah. Especially because there's now a fourth one that's in production, coming out in maybe a couple of years, maybe next year even. I really hope that whatever they're going to do with it, they're going to cut down on the insanity a little bit.
I don't know why, but I thought that the series would be done with 3 after, that was a year's gap between the previous installment and 3. So I don't know why I built this idea in my head, because it's a massive cash cow franchise. It's got Disney characters and Final Fantasy and everything. I don't know why I expected that they would just be done with the concept, but
well, I mean, three was supposed to. It feels like that it should be the ending, but God damn it, it just ends on another cliffhanger.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Well. So it's got that, but it's still, they're lovely games. I really, really have enjoyed my time with them.
I mean, you can't get too mad at something that has like cute Disney characters interacting in funny RPG ways.
Yeah, and the voice acting is solid. The music is great. It's still a lot of fun to play. And then I did a review on the final expansion on Destiny 2, which is another 10-year project that finally came to an ending.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize there was the final chapter or final expansion.
Well, it's meant to be the final one, but I think it's paving for another big story arc, I think. But it's final in the sense that I think that it's called the Final Shape. And there's a lot of, it's almost entirely fan service. It's like in the way that Avengers Endgame was nothing but fan service, the movie. Yeah. This is fan service, the expansion pack.
Interesting.
I enjoyed it as well. I'm a casual Destiny fan, but I'm really glad that I got to go and like revisit that. And it's a good 20 hours that it takes to play, and it's a lot of fun. I think that it leans really heavily on the fact that if you don't have friends who play it, you're kind of screwed, because it's designed even more heavily than all the previous ones to be a cooperative experience. it's kind of a shame because the previous ones you did have a chance to play it solo, like I do play most of these things. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I think if you're a Destiny fan, you're probably going to enjoy this as well, but I don't think it's going to convert any new people into it.
I don't have any touchstone with Destiny. I hate to admit, like I never played them, and I'm sure since they have a very big fan group, and you mentioned that there's tons of fan service, I'm sure there is like stuff to grab into, but it all looks terribly generic when I look at just like a surface level casually at it, just like some basic sci-fi shooty thing.
I mean, it is. It's like everything. It is the most like lowest common denominator stuff. Like the fact that like, you know, everything's called like, there, like, come here, Guardian. There is the Traveler, and this is the Decimator. And it's like, you haven't even tried. You just picked adjectives and, you know, use these for everything.
Yeah, but it sounds profound.
Yeah, but it's fine. It was good. Yeah. And the very last thing, I am now just starting. I have only put in about 10 hours into the Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail expansion. And I got into Final Fantasy XIV properly last year when I visited the Final Fantasy Fan Festival in London.
Yeah, and you hadn't really you tried it, but you hadn't really put time into the MMO previously.
Yeah, and now I've played it, like a lot of it. I enjoy it quite a bit. I have a lot of issues with MMOs, how they're played. You know, the fact that there's a lot of pointless padding to it. It
kind of comes with it to some extent.
Yeah, absolutely. But then the story itself, once you get into the main story campaign missions, is really good. And finding people to play it with is a lot of fun, especially when you get to like an RP server and people are really into their characters.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that Final Fantasy XIV has RP servers.
Yeah, and like actually like going and asking like, hey, I want to play with people who are like really like you have your characters and all that and getting into it. And because it's so like you can play it for free on the trial account for 2 expansions. So it's like almost 300 hours of gameplay that's for free.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's really what sold me into getting into it. And like now, after having gone through the expansions and now into Dawn Trail, I really do understand why people get so into it. And I think the biggest thing is that now I've had time, because I specifically made time for this.
Right.
But I worry that now, like, once we get past July and we get back into a proper game release schedules and proper, you know, I have festivals and all that coming in, I worry that I don't have time to play an MMO, and that's really the big thing. MMOs are meant for an audience that plays nothing else.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if you don't devote your life entirely to this one thing. So, you lose out on obviously some. The community aspect is super important, of course, to the people who are the fan of it, but I personally, I don't see the problem in being able to diversify what you spend your time in.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, not a bad thing. I mean, some people play only one type of game, and that's completely fine for them.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'm not gonna sneeze on that either. They're probably having a really good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have had a great time with it. I really do think that if you find friends to play it with, and if you find a community with it, gosh, you're going to have a great time. And I think that's, well, I mean, it's an MMO. That's what it's there for. I look forward to another FanFest. I can't wait to meet some of the people that I've actually been playing with. And I think
right. I didn't even think about that like aspect of it.
Yeah, so I think that's what's going to keep me into this. And I think that without that FanFest experience, I wouldn't have had as a rich time as I have now with it, because it's knowing that there are real people who I'm interacting with, who I'm going to meet one day. I think it makes it a really, really wonderful experience this way.
All right, cool. Well, I look forward to hear how it continues when you have time to play the Dawn Trail still, I hope. And I hope you get to go to that FanFest. So
Yeah, I hope so. But here we are. Anyway, what's coming up in the future?
Yeah, let's look at that a little bit, because we had some cool revelations at Summer Games Fest and also at the Nintendo Direct. There was a couple of big names. The ones I noted down, of course, I would be remiss not to bring up Doom and the new installment that they've announced, Doom: The Dark Ages, which I'm going to say you called out a little bit, because when we reviewed Doom Eternal, what you said was that you were hoping that the next installment would be something that goes a little bit back in the mythology to explore the history of the Doomslayer. And this looks to be some kind of wacky Middle Ages, but there's still guns for some reason, like a prequel to the story of the Doomslayer. And well done on that front.
I mean, I'm not saying that the people who made Doom were listening to our podcast and went that, this gentleman has the right idea and went and made the game. But, I am saying that I do take donations through PayPal. So thank you, Bethesda. No, I'm excited about it. I'm, like you, confused about the existence of guns. I think it would have been really interesting to see Doom with no guns, but I think then that would have had to be called Hexen.
Yeah,
and
but
I don't think they have the license for that.
Yeah, some kind of like full. Well, they could have been cheeky and like talked about witches or something, which is Hexen in German.
Yeah,
Doom Witch Slayer or something. But yeah, I that would have been really bold to make it a Doom game, but still like, no guns at all. That would have been an interesting take. I think the addition of the shield mechanic is a step in the right direction, at least, like in bringing that feel to it, making it a little bit more primal and, close combat oriented, I guess. So I'm pretty hopeful for it.
I'm excited for it. Yeah, I mean, more Doom is always good. I'm always glad to go and play a little bit of that ultra-violent madness. So, yeah.
The only caveat, the only thing that's a little concerning is that Doom 2016 very much felt like it was not a remake, but like bringing back the elements of the first Doom, kind of redoing those. And similarly, Doom Eternal was really dipping into Doom 2 in terms of the setting and the like new monsters and everything. And they've kind of exhausted that now, so any new stuff that they come up with has to like be like totally new instead of just leading on something that came before. So I don't know how well they'll pull that off. That's something they're going to have to consider, because they are kind of out of material to warm up again.
Yeah.
But there was a gun that uses skulls that it chews up into bone bits and shoots at demons. So that's already a pretty good new idea. So, at least one point on the scorecard for them.
That is the kind of insanity that I'm always happy to go and see. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Points
good
for
stuff.
them.
Yeah. The other game I wanted to bring up from Summer Games Fest was Lego Horizon. Was quite the surprise.
Yes.
I think this is the first time that a Lego game is adapting another game. Like, all the other franchises have been like movies and cartoons, which probably have tie-in games, but this is explicitly a video game tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
It looked really lovely. My favorite thing was the fact that Ashley Birch gets to play a slightly different Aloy, because Aloy is a good character, but she's very like self-serious, very profound in Horizon. She's on this quest to save these people, and she's, very driven. And now Lego is much sillier, so she gets to play like a much more like playful, like sillier version of Aloy, and that was actually kind of really charming to like hear in the trailer.
Yeah, I was really happy about that, because like that was my big complaint about the the second Horizon game
Forbidden West.
Yeah, because the first one like ended with her coming out of her shell, with making friends, and you got this idea that she was finally finding a community to be around, and I was really happy to see that. And then the second one starts, and she's again alone and angry, and even angrier than she was in the first game, and like just snipping at people and being really, really hostile towards even those who are like have uprooted their lives to come and help her. And like I was really frustrated by that because I wanted to see a game that would have had much more of that, not silliness, but the change in the character. I felt it regressed between games. So now having Ashley Birch get a chance to play something that is fun and something that is silly, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and the game in general, it looks fun, and when you think about it, you're like, the whole dismantling robots thing actually, it really works well with Legos. Like, that makes quite a bit of sense. So I'm pretty hopeful for that. I haven't been super feeling Lego games over the years, but this one seems to have a little bit more oomph to it.
Yeah,
just
and
looking
like,
at it.
I mean, I have a long neck Lego in my office that I'm very proud of, and I really, really do think that I'm gonna love what they do with this, because this is everything I like. I like Horizon, I like the world, and I like Legos. So yeah, I'm an adult, damn it.
Yes. We're being very important adults here.
Yes.
Oh, geez. Well, why don't you want to mention something that is interesting coming up?
I'm going to start with a really odd one, but this was the one of the things that I really got excited about at Summer Games Fest, and it falls right in line with the indie thing. This is a game that's been developed by a single person.
Oh, those are always exciting.
And I was really excited that Jeff Kiley brought it up, because I don't think that the person had to pay the outrageous fees that the Summer Games Fest charges for the showing us trailer there. So I think that they really believe in the game enough that they awarded them the space. But it's called Killer Bean.
Oh, I did see this, right? I do remember. It's the one with all the weird Matrix references and it's got weird janky mechanics to its shooting, but like in a weirdly charming way, right?
Yeah, it's an open world roguelike shooter that is both first person and third person, where you play a rogue assassin Coffee Bean.
Yes, and they all have these weird googly eye faces.
Yeah, it looks absolutely insane. It looks really, really silly. But it looks like that they've understood the assignment perfectly. Like of what this kind of crazy action stuff really needs. There's no word yet on when it's gonna come out, but the early access is said to take about a year or two, because it's one person and they need the money to develop it. I'm really hoping that they are going to come to Gamescom, or at least somebody will come to Gamescom to show it there. Or at least that I get to play it soon, because the moment I saw it, I was like, this is exactly what I'm excited about. Like, it's the kind of small but big independent gaming that I get much more excited about than the new Call of Duty, for example.
Yeah, and very clearly the person making it has an exact idea of like what they want to feature in the game, and that of course means that it's a little rough on like the surroundings of it. Like it isn't the most amazing looking thing in the world, but like in like graphical fidelity terms, but like very clearly the gameplay is like a ton of love is going into it. It's probably going to be amazing.
Yeah, and like I have gotten to the point, like you mentioned earlier, that I don't really care about graphics anymore. Yeah. I really don't care what the game looks like if it's well made. I think, and I'm actually working on a video for my channel about this, that my favorite console of the past 2 generations has been the Nintendo Switch. Because like I don't care at all about the graphics. But every game that I still play, like if I'm traveling, if I'm on a bus, like in a public transit, or if I'm just at home on the sofa, I most likely gravitate toward the Nintendo Switch, because every game that they come out with is just such a blast to play.
Yeah, I feel that quite a bit, yeah.
I do want to mention, like, as a slightly bigger game, because this is something that I've been really excited about, and they constantly tease it. They had a really great presentation at the Summer Game Fest, and they had their own presentation a little bit later, but Dune Awakening.
Oh yeah, you've talked about this, the survival MMO one.
Yeah, and like, 'cause they're doing some really interesting stuff with the fact that they're actually like they're diving really deep into the books, and they're taking a lot from the Villeneuve films. It really looks like that they're wanting to do justice to Dune and making it into this experience that you get to live out the crazy Frank Herbert fantasies, on your own terms. I know that they're going to be at Gamescom, and I've already gone and begged for them for some time to go and talk to the developers, and I hope that I get to do a really big thing on this, because this is possibly my biggest game of the year that I'm expecting.
That's really big praise, honestly.
Yeah, and it's because I love the Conan Exiles, and we played that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. Yeah, I quite like it too. Yeah,
and everything I've seen from Dune Awakening so far has been that it's everything I love about Conan Exiles, and it's just been ramped up to 11. So I'm really excited. I want to put all my time into this as soon as possible, but there's no release date. They said it's going to be out when it's out. There's a closed beta happening. So maybe, hopefully, some gameplay at Gamescom, and if that happens, I will definitely come back with anything I can tell about it, because I do hope that we're in for a treat, and I hope that next time we have a podcast, we can already start talking about that. Oh, we've played it, and it's going to be awesome. And I want to play it with you, and I want to play with the other folks from our End Friends group.
Yeah,
because I think that there is enough sci-fi fans and enough fans of this kind of world building that we would probably have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I would definitely at least check it out. I would be definitely happy to. I hope the environs in the game will be engaging. That's my only fear, is that a desert planet means it would be run the risk of falling into one rather similar biome of a desert. So I hope they can come up with good variance in what kind of desert landscapes you adventure in.
Mm-hmm.
That's, so it's not just very sandy desert versus very rocky desert. Isn't just the two modes.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Okay, one last thing I want to call out from Summer Games Fest myself. And then, of course, there's one big thing from Nintendo that we need to talk about. But from Summer Games Fest, the next season of characters in Street Fighter 6 is going to have... Mai and oh my god, why did my brain break? From Fatal Fury, from King of Fighters. Terry Bogard and Mai are going to be from Fatal Fury and King of Fighters in Street Fighter. And why this is huge is that while Street Fighter has been happy to show up in crossover games itself, the Street Fighter games themselves have not had guest characters from other companies up until now. They've had guest characters from Rival Schools and from Final Fight, but those are also Capcom games, and Capcom has been explicit that they're all set in the same universe, so it's not exactly like a big guest character crossover. But Terry Bogard is fighting game royalty, so that's kind of mind-blowing. That's the characters we're going to be getting in the future in Street Fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not as into or not as knowledgeable about the lore as you are, but
yeah,
I could tell from the audience reaction when they showed the characters coming in, that people were really excited, and there was a lot of ooh going on. So I could tell that this was a big thing.
It's very funny. We watched a bit of the Summer Games Fest with my nephew, and I was pretty neutral watching most of it. This looks cool. This is really neat. But then we caught a bit of Street Fighter 6, and we were chatting with each other, and I was like glancing over, and like Terry showed up there, and there's hey, that's the guy from King of Fighters, and wait, what is this game? And then like I like had my moment of like, wait, what the hell? When I realized the implication, it was amusing. Like just caught it by side eye and had to do a double take. But yeah, I haven't played Street Fighter 6 yet. I almost might get it for this season 2. M. Bison looks pretty cool too. His new evil punished Bison look, very neat. But I don't know, this is fun jump in point. I might get that at some point. Maybe right now because there's I have to check if it's on the sale.
It's $30 on sale right now.
Okay, I better look into that then, because that sounds fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought it was fantastic. I really loved Street Fighter 6. It was one of my favorite games from last year, I think. But like, I wish Bison came with his classic outfit. I'm a sucker for that.
I think he does have it as like maybe a cosmetic DLC or something.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm excited again because like that's my jams. I like the crazy old outfit.
Yeah, the big red, the Raul Julia,
yes,
rocking outfit. Yeah. I think if it's not yet, it's gonna be there because that's like the first DLC outfit they always do is like the nostalgia outfit, so you can just go back to the old look. So I wouldn't be too worried about that.
If they did a Raul Julia DLC, I would buy that instantly.
Oh, that'd be crazy, because Mortal Kombat had the, like, movie guys in one of the recent ones, and that was really funny. So, yeah. They'd have to use archival footage or recordings, though.
Oh, they probably could, and, like, they could bring Raul Julia there, and then bring Van Damme in there and all that. Mm-hmm. I would buy the hell out of that.
Oh, Van Damme Guile would be a really funny DLC. Yeah. I bet he would be into that, too, so.
He would, probably. I would be into it. But, yeah, I'm if you ever want to have a match in Street Fighter, I'm totally into it because it's a really great game.
All right, let's look into it. I've heard all the good news. I realize it is like the dream game right now in fighting games, so I'll have to put some time in eventually, obviously. Do you still want to call out something from Summer Games, or should we talk about Zelda?
Let's talk about Zelda.
Let's get into Zelda. So Zelda, the something of wisdom, echo of wisdom, right? Because echoes are the big thing. It's finally happened. They aren't messing around anymore. They are actually providing a playable Zelda for you in a Legend of Zelda game. I've seen a ton of jokes about now grandmothers not being confused about who the protagonist of the game is. But yeah, no, obviously I'm thrilled for that aspect, and it seems very ambitious, the gameplay mechanic of you being able to copy any item or creature and like create copies of them. The trailer made it look like there's no like mana point system or anything to control how much you call them, summon items. I don't know if that they just didn't want to show it in the trailer, or if they're actually that crazy that there's not going to be any limit to your like ability to summon items. What do you think?
I need to first see a little bit more of the gameplay.
Yeah,
I have a hard time. I'm a little bit annoyed that Zelda doesn't get her own sword and isn't like because she's already been a badass in when she was Sheik.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hoping we could have gotten something like that, but I realized that they want to try out new things, and I will not diss any of the game mechanics until I've tried them. But I do want to air out the grievance that I had, that I was like, we are gypped out of a badass Zelda with a sword.
That would be pretty great too, but that's an age-old thing that goes into like feminism of like it is feminism is that women can do like the same stuff that men do, but then there's also the other aspect of women can do their own womanly thing, and it's also cool, like it's just as valid as traditionally manly things. So I think what they're doing is that they're leaning on that like that latter concept of like a feminine hero, in that Zelda has her own distinct play style, but it's just as valid as Link's sword and board action, I think. it might be the feminist read of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sword Zelda would be really cool, though.
I did see a wonderful meme about that, which is the opening video where Link gets swallowed up by the darkness, and like in the meme, it's just Link is yelling at Zelda that you can just reach me, just use your magic that you've got to create like a branch for me, and Zelda's watching and going like, it's my time now.
Yeah, I guess there might be a little bit of that energy there.
But I'm excited. It's another Legend of Zelda game, and they're always good. I don't think I've played I'm sure there are bad Legend of Zelda games, but I can't remember them anytime I try and think of them.
Yeah, the train one from the DS doesn't at
Spirit
least come
Tracks.
up. Yeah, that doesn't come up very often in conversation, at least. But I don't know. I think that one's people still consider that to be fine.
Yeah, I've enjoyed all of them, and I'm always excited for a new one. So
Yeah,
I'm really glad we have another one coming in.
yeah, and it's pretty cool that they're not abandoning the Link to the Past formula either. After Breath of the Wild redefined the gameplay, and Tears of the Kingdom solidified that this is what Zelda's going to be from now on. But these smaller projects, they're still willing to indulge the other kinds of Zelda games, so that's good.
And Link to the Past is my favorite.
Yeah.
Of them all, and that's because that's the first one I played. So yeah. I'm always happy to see something that harkens back to it.
Yeah, which this one is doing pretty in spades. It looks like it's the same setting even. So
yeah, it's basically nostalgia heaven for old fogies like myself.
Yeah, for Super Nintendo era, absolutely. Anything else from Nintendo side?
We had another tease for Metroid, but almost nothing else. And it's like, Metroid is coming. Honest, promise, one of these days.
The cool thing is the bad guy they showed at the end, who is this minor but very popular villain, the rival bounty hunter Silex. Mm-hmm. He showed up in the DS spin-off that was like a first-person shootery thingy, and he was like the most popular villain out of the set of rival hunters in that. So that's a pretty big fan service drop again, to have him show up in a big budget Metroid game.
Right.
But not a lot to go off on yet. That was just we're still working on the game kind of trailer. So
yeah, I get the idea that it's probably going to be a launch title for Switch 2 next year.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, which is fair if you're going to launch something and you don't have a Zelda, or at least they don't have an announced Mario, unless they're going to pull something really crazy and have a new Mario game and a Metroid game as their launch titles.
Yeah, and Shadow Drop, the new Mario game.
Yeah. Then I think Metroid will serve just nicely as a soft launch kind of thing.
It's something that a lot of people have looked forward to.
It's true. And they're not dropping the Switch at all. It's their biggest selling console in Nintendo history. Yeah. So I think they're going to be supporting it for quite some time.
Yeah.
But I am really excited to see what Switch 2 is going to look like.
Yeah, but that we haven't been able to indulge yet in all these previews, so...
No, I think we have another 6 months at least wait. I think we'll see it probably at Christmas, during the Christmas Nintendo Direct, and then it'll come out next summer. So we have another year at least.
Yeah, but looking forward to that as well, I suppose. I'm perfectly happy with the Switch at the moment, though, so I'm not really in any hurry. But
no, it's the best aged console of the lot. I've got the Switch OLED in my living room and the Switch Lite in my backpack, and I'm happy as a clam with them.
Hell yeah. Okay, I think that's about enough of previews and everything. So I think we've got a pretty good picture of the situation at the moment, wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be it's not as crazy as last year.
Yeah.
But it's still gonna be a solid year for gaming, and I'm glad that we have a little bit of a breather. Because last year I remember we were talking about this, that we were both kind of exhausted with the amount of games that were coming out.
Yeah. Now it's I didn't have the opportunity to play very much, but there's now I can catch up a little bit with interesting titles at least. But yeah, lots of good stuff to look forward to.
Yeah. You mentioned you had watched something as well.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Before we wrap up, I did want to do a bit of a movie review here as well, and it's a movie review a couple of years late, but I just now saw the 2021 Mortal Kombat film, the new adaptation, and I have some thoughts about this. I understand that it wasn't a very big hit when it came out, and it wasn't super well received. Like, it was pretty lukewarm on arrival. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, it was like the critics didn't like it, fans were kind of meh about it, and it made enough money that there is a sequel coming.
Okay.
I think there's a sequel coming this year, actually. But
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to get like an actual theatrical release or if it's going straight to streaming.
Huh. All right. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I had all this background knowledge, of course. Like, I had these impressions walking into watching the movie, and I did have I had an overall, like, a good time watching it. I guess my expectations were sufficiently low. Like, I think the movie understood which parts really needed to be, like, good. And they nailed those, like, the really important bits. So Sub-Zero was, like, really cool. Okay, pun, whatever. He was really neat in every scene he was in. So they understood that this is, like, one of the favorite characters. Likewise, Scorpion was, he wasn't used a lot, but he was, like, his fight versus Sub-Zero at the end of the movie is, like, the highlight, as it probably should be. And likewise, they understood how popular Kano was from the 95 movie, 94, 95, the original movie. So they understood to, like, have Kano be a big deal in this adaptation as well. Mm-hmm. So I appreciated, like, that they, the big spots and the fights in general. The choreography was pretty neat. I was really happy with them. Kung Lao got to do cool stuff. Liu Kang got to do good stuff. I liked... I'll talk about it in a second, but I liked that Liu Kang wasn't the protagonist, so he got to play the main protagonist. He got to play a little bit of a different character himself by being, like, an already established hero and combatant that gave a new, fresh take on Liu Kang as well. So... Mm-hmm. And also, like, in terms of, like, if the movie is a vehicle for me to sell on the game, at least, like, the character of Cabal was really cool, and I thought it was funny that he was this New Jersey mook while he was this scary gas mask guy. It was like a weird juxtaposition, but, like, that was the first time I was like, yeah, I would actually want to play as Cabal. So, I thought the advertisement worked on that front. And the character designs were pretty good. I enjoyed them. Goro was cool looking. This fight was good. I don't know. Did you enjoy the characters? Were there parts of it that you liked?
There were parts of it that I liked. I think the movie peaks at the first 10 minutes when you have the fight scene with Sub-Zero and Scorpion.
Yeah, their first encounter in the past.
Yeah, and
also a good one.
Yeah, I think that if the movie had... Because it's such... I always think it's a crime when you waste Hiroyuki Sanada. And, like, bringing him to play Scorpion and then benching him for the entire movie is just, like, that was a bait and switch. Like,
I guess I can see that, too.
Like, I was really excited. I was really excited about the idea that, we're going to have, like, a story about, like, this character that's always been kind of perceived as a villain, but from what I understand has a lot of lore and has a lot of, like, a tragic story there. And I was really excited about it. And then he's just kind of like, he's now away. And then you have a new character made for the movie who is not interesting at all.
Yeah, I guess we got to talk about Cole Young then, get to the negatives.
Yeah, because he's kind of a wet rag.
Well, I can see here as well, I can see what they maybe were going for, and I can kind of appreciate it. I think they were... the actor of Cole Young really looks like Jean-Claude Van Damme in some shots, like Bloodsport era Jean-Claude Van Damme. I get the feeling they maybe, because Johnny Cage is based on Jean-Claude, of course, I think they maybe wanted like that kind of character as the main character, but Mortal Kombat is very steeped in like it just is kind of like an Asian mythology inspired setting. So having like a white guy hero would have been like a little bit like frustrating, right?
I do agree with that. I don't mind like the casting. I just wish they would have created a more interesting character.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's just like I see what they were going for, maybe in terms of like let's have like this Asian Jean-Claude Van Damme like like archetype, but like he had an incredibly generic backstory, and it was like an incredibly generic like you gotta find it in you to fight for what matters to unlock your potential or whatever. Like, it was a weird choice, and like it's not like Cole Young is probably gonna become a mainstay in the video games. He's not gonna migrate. Like what would he bring to the cast that now exists? Like anything new? Like not really anything, because there's nothing really all that unique to him. So yeah, kind of baffling. Kind of maybe I can imagine what they were going for, but kind of like brings the movie down having him being the hero. Sadly. Also, unfortunately, two big legacy characters are complete wet rags. Here I have to like compare to the wonderful cheesiness of the 90s movie, where Christopher Lambert as Raiden is phenomenal, and Keri Hiroyuki Tagawa as Shang Tsung is, again, just incredible, just owns that role. And they're both so dull in this new one. Like Tadanobu Asano is super cool actor also, that I just didn't feel as Raiden. He didn't even do anything interesting. He just creates a bunch of like force fields and lightnings and teleports people. So wasted potential there. And Shang Tsung was just especially because like he also does not do anything in the movie. He's the big bad, but they're so setting up second movie that like nothing. Like he's just sad as a villain.
Yeah, and like I think that it was really weird that this movie, despite being called Mortal Kombat and clearly putting an effort into having a bunch of characters into it, it seemed constantly really embarrassed by being a Mortal Kombat movie. Like there really wasn't Mortal Kombat in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole plot is that he wants to subvert the tournament from ever happening, so we never get any tournament in the movie. It's just a bunch of like, faffing about. And also, I won't go too much about the like inconsistencies and the plot holes about how like inheriting the mark makes no sense, or how Shang Tsung talks about we gotta work in secret from like, so Raiden doesn't pick up on our like stuff, but then he just teleports to talk to Raiden anyway and reveal his evil plan.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's all just kind of a vehicle for setting up the fights, but I don't know. Ultimately, it's just like faffing about for a second movie that like it's bold of them to assume they would be making a second one. It just feels a bit like underplayed, the whole thing. It
does, and like it's one of those things where you're like constantly thinking that you guys could have made one good standalone movie, and then like hope that it makes enough money that you can make a second one, and then start thinking about making sequels.
Yeah, basically. Of course, that didn't work out super well for Mortal Kombat Annihilation. In terms of, like, okay, yeah, maybe you should have just stuck to them on one movie there, but
yeah, I'm a little worried because I looked up Mortal Kombat 2 is coming out next year, so in next year October.
Okay.
And like the bad things, it's got the same director and the same writer.
I don't know. I mean, hey, it's a learning experience. Maybe this time they've like improved their craft.
The writer's previous film was Godzilla multiplied by Kong, The New Empire.
Oh, okay.
So, and not exactly. And he also wrote the awful Fantastic Four movie from 2015. So,
the one by the was it Chronicle? Was that?
Yeah, the Josh Trank movie.
That's the one. Yeah. That one is... I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's not good.
No, it's kind of terrible. So I don't have a lot of faith in that. But here we get to the good stuff then. Hiroyuki Sanada is back as Scorpion, which is always good stuff.
Good.
And
hey, he might be there more this time.
And Carl Urban is playing Johnny Cage.
That's an interesting casting.
Yeah, it's not going to be apparently a young Johnny Cage. It's going to be like an older one.
Carl Urban is one of those actors who I will go watch for pretty much anything. So like I don't mind the curious casting.
And like Chin Han is back as Shang Tsung, and like I'm always happy to see Chin Han in anything. He's a really good actor.
I didn't recognize him, sadly, so maybe that's also why I wasn't very hyped for.
Well, he didn't have a lot to do, but I hope that he gets to do more this time. So like we have good actors coming in, and like I hope that this time they will actually have some faith into it. It looks like Urban has been a lot more involved in the story and like in the production side, and that does give me hope.
And Urban is actually he's a pretty big nerd secretly, so he might actually give this thing what it needs, the production.
Yeah, and he's a big Mortal Kombat fan, so nice. let's see what happens. I'll go see it. I'm not gonna skip out on it, but based off of the first one, if Carl Urban wasn't involved, I would be a lot less interested.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a fair take. Well, we'll hope for the best.
Yeah, the big thing is that they finished filming in January of this year. Oh. And Warner Brothers has been pushing the release date all the way to October 24th, 2025.
Wait, what? They finished filming in January this year? And they're pushing it back by a year and a half?
Yeah, because...
that's not normal, is it?
No, it's not. And that's because David Zaslav, who owns Warner Brothers, is allergic to making any kind of good choices.
Shit, I did not even think about that fact. Oh, God. Right.
Yeah, okay. Like Warner Brothers has a wealth of amazing material, a wealth of amazing talent, and amazing films in their slate. But as long as David Zaslav is around, I think that we are just going to have to, like, if something good comes out of it, it's a happy mistake that it slipped through his fingers.
Oh, geez. Okay, well, hoping for the best for everyone involved. I'm sure there's people like Mr. Urban who love Mortal Kombat involved who want to make a good product, so...
Yeah. Did you play the Mortal Kombat 1, the game from last year?
No, because I have to be so selective with fighting games, so Tekken 8 was the one that I ended up going with. I haven't gotten around to playing Mortal Kombat 1.
I would recommend watch the YouTube cut where they've cut it into a movie, because it's actually a really good Mortal Kombat movie.
Interesting. I mean, that's what they've been doing since 9, is like they've been leaning heavily on like the cinematic experience of the story mode. So
yeah, it's actually really like if they had released it as an animated movie, I would have been completely happy with that, because it's actually a really solid. It's a lot of fan service and it's really cheesy, but it's everything I would have wanted out of a Mortal Kombat movie. So warm recommendation on that one.
I will have to look that up at some point. Did you see they may have leaked the new DLC characters for that game?
Beyond Omni-Man and
the current cast. Yeah, they revealed like the next slate of characters.
Oh, I didn't see that. No, what's coming up?
Can I pull it up? The new characters that were leaked. It's going to be at least 2 of the cyborgs. It was Sector and Cyrax, who are the
nice
yellow and red cyborg. Although they are like, they might be pre-cyborg, we don't know. It's just the names leaked. God damn it, where is it? No. Here we go. There's also Noob Saibot is the third like Mortal Kombat character, which makes sense. He's a classic. Yeah. Then there are 3 guest characters, as they love to do with Mortal Kombat. Ghostface from Scream is suggested.
That is really weird.
I can dig it, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Conan the Barbarian.
I love it.
That's 80s worship, as they love to do.
And I mean, that fits right into, like, that's the kind of crossover I could see.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he fits the milieu. And then the character, which makes me think that this isn't actually real, this leak, because this character I don't see working at all. the T-1000 from Terminator 2.
Well, yeah, they're probably going to do the same thing as they did when they brought in Jason and Freddy, characters who notoriously can't die. So I think it's just going to be a skin, essentially, without any kind of, other thought behind it.
Yeah, maybe, but, because it works even worse here, because, if he was true to the character, there would be no gore. He's made out of goop.
That's true, yeah.
If you do a fatality on him, there's not going to be any blood and guts. The last Mortal Kombat had Arnold, the T-800, and that at least he's got the synthetic blood and skin, and he's got a metal skeleton, so you can still kind of do fatalities with him. But, the T-1000 is just, a big goop man, so it's, either they don't stay true to the character, or it's just gonna be a little goofy, and just fall flat on it.
Yeah.
But apparently that's the slate, if this leak is to be believed.
Well, I'm excited about Conan, at least, and yeah, the cyborgs are all fun, but I really rarely buy the DLC characters. So let's kind of see how it is. It would have to be a really, really special case for me to get it, or then I'll wait until they announce that it's done and we're not releasing any more DLC characters, and here's the complete
discounted
edition.
Yeah, discounted everybody pack. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm glad that they're still doing that stuff, and that people are playing it, because it means we're gonna get more Mortal Kombat, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I can dig this list. Apart from T1K, I can dig this list. Ghostface has me kind of interested. That could actually be kind of fun.
It's really weird because it's does it really have that big of a following to warrant inclusion? But I guess it does.
I mean, there was a bit of a pop when he showed up in Dead by Daylight as a
right.
As there was a bit of a warm welcome. So I don't know.
All right.
What'd be super funny is if it's actually he's based on the parody version from all those parody movies that there were two parody movies of Scream for some reason. There was Scary Movie and there was Shriek, and they both had a bumbling idiot Ghostface. So if they made comedy Ghostface as the character, that would actually that would sell me on it.
Yeah, constantly rolling natural ones and falling over as he tries to punch somebody.
Yeah, and he shrugs at the camera when he screws up or something. yeah, that would be pretty good.
Yeah, well, let's see how it goes. I mean, it's not if it's bad, it's not we don't have a big selection of fighting games to choose from.
This is a really good time to be a fighting game fan. It's kind
absolutely
of bonkers. Yeah. All right, we have been rambling on really long, but it's been a long year and there's been a lot to cover. So I think we gave the first half of the year the time it deserved, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I think so. And again, it's despite that it's been a quiet year, it's been still a lot to play with, and I'm sure we missed a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna have stuff to look back on still, probably on the channel or on my free time. But yeah. Anything you want to highlight of your own stuff coming up?
Gamescom's gonna be the big thing. I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
I am taking I got myself finally a proper camera thing to go with me. And I'm gonna do some videos from there. I'll do some interviews, hopefully, and a video diary. So that's gonna be. I am not really looking forward to being in front of the camera as much as I'm going to be, but that is what I have been told by many people is the thing that the kids want.
Apparently so. Yeah.
So there's going to be some of that, and it's going to be easier for me that I don't have to, at the end of the day, go and still form and write stuff about a bunch of stuff. So I can just go and edit, put together some reaction stuff, and then load it up, and even do YouTube Live while I'm there. But that's really I'm taking July a little bit easier. I've got a couple of movie reviews coming out, and all that. But then August is going to be absolutely insane because of the Gamescom.
It'll be great, I'm sure. I'm look forward to the how that event's going to go down and your presentation. Some kind of live feed sounds pretty exciting, honestly.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. And then, how about you? What are you doing?
Playing some great games, honestly. Right now, you folks are enjoying the Chained Echoes still. There's also Northern Journey that I talked earlier today, which is, if you specifically like weird Nordic flair, then this is a great game. And we're wrapping up Ghostwire. Sadly became a bit of a moratorium for Ghostwire because the Tango Gameworks laying off thing happened mid-recording, and I don't know if that episode has come out yet, but it's not a fun opening to an episode where I have to be yeah, that happened. But,
yep.
It's not great. But those are I'm really enjoying all three of those games quite a bit. Northern Journey is hitting all the good points. And I mentioned already that Snufkin will be coming up in August. There's going to be another game set in Japan with the word ghost in the title. That's going to come right after Ghostwire. So I really hope people look forward to that one. I am planning I don't know if this is going to pan out, but I am planning a music review thing, or maybe a music highlight thing, because I'm really not qualified to review music. But I have had this dumb inspiration for a concept music highlight thing that I might be doing. We'll see at the end of August if it becomes a reality. But I don't want to... I'll keep that a little secret for now further. We'll see how it goes.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, if you liked our old men talking about really old bands bit from earlier today, then something like that might be coming more on the channel. A bit of a new ground for me. Exciting new uncharted territory.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been great. Let's look forward to the rest of the year, and we'll see what funny hijinks we get to on the way there, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, but from me and Jonathan, it's been great. Catch you all, everybody. Bye-bye!
So long.